So welcome everybody to the Truth of You FB Live. I'm here with the wonderful Dianna To. Dianna is in Malaysia and is one of Malaysia's successful ladies in business. Dianna was working in the senior management team for a financial services institution. I'll let her tell you who. But we had the pleasure of meeting about 7 or 8 months ago, and I'd like to say we clicked, Dianna, and we got on like a house on fire. So we've asked Dianna to come on to the show to have a chat about the International Women's celebrations for this month. I've decided to do a month of celebrating ladies in business. Against a bias, the hashtag is break the bias that ladies have to face on a minute-by-minute basis in the land of the man, and still push through and achieve some real big things. So, Dianna, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
So, would you be so kind as to talk to us about your experience up to this point in business? You've achieved quite a lot. You're transitioning now into training with neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis and timeline therapy for senior teams. How have you found it? How have you found it so far? I understand everything's been going super well.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, for inviting me to your talk show.
Thank you.
And your FB Live. And also, thank you very much for supporting women for International Women's Day.
Always.
Yeah, you're just awesome.
Thank you, Dianna.
Yeah, so breaking the bias, I think in Asia, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Yeah, there are progress, like for example, in Malaysia, we started a campaign called 30% of, they wanted to have 30% of women in the public list, on the board of the public listed companies. So this exercise started quite a few years ago, and the target was to have 30% women on the board of public listed company, and I'm glad to say now we are at 38.5%. So women in Malaysia have already achieved that kind of success. However, in Asian country, I think the top is Singapore, I think it's Philippines, Myanmar, and Malaysia comes number 4. So there is a lot of more work that needs to be done. Yeah. So I always felt that for women to progress further, it has to start from the roots, like education, and from the environment and education, because that's where everything starts. It's like for me, I'm considered myself lucky because I'm in an organization that supports women, that is open to women leadership. It's a really big financial institution, and the management supports women. Yeah, so I am lucky in that sense. I'm sure there is other companies out there who are more male dominated in terms of the management. So I am considered very, very lucky. And in all the companies that I work in, yeah, so I have good bosses.
Well, I mean, and look what that's allowed you to achieve. We've talked about it before, and all that lovely experience that you're now taking out to these leadership teams. What can you remember a specific time when in particular where you've had to really deal with that kind of male-dominated environment? What was the scenario and how did you overcome that?
I think I'm considered lucky because in all the organizations that I work in, they are open to women leading, but of course, in some scenario there would be people who thinks women don't know as much. They probably challenge. So how I usually manage this kind of situation is, number one, to know your facts, to know the information, to have the knowledge. So that's how I handle this kind of situation. Let's say, for example, they said, "Oh, I can't, like, for example, it says I can't move the products or something because it didn't arrive in my branch, and all kinds of things that is being said." So I think being a woman is really good because we are very detailed. We know the products go where at what time, who signed for it, and we know it's sitting in the storeroom. So I think that is a plus point of being a woman because we know the details and we track, and that is where I have the upper hand because I say, okay, the product is this stuff yours? This particular stuff is your employee, yes, and she signs for this on this date, and now I am sure it's sitting in your storeroom. You have not been doing your job. So it's basically through knowledge, yeah, and yeah, we don't need to have a brawn to do that. We just have to have brains.
Just the brains. I love it. Well, there's a bias right there. It's quite funny, isn't it? It's well, and well, actually, on the contrary, it's. I guess we're sort of, we're finding humour in it, but it's the general comments that I've found through all these conversations with you, with you all, is that we've got still a long way to go out there in the world.
Definitely.
And that actually, everybody's responsible. Today, I had an interview with a lady called Alison, who you also know.
Yeah.
And Alison was talking about meaning, and being responsible for your thinking. So I find, if somebody's in that kind of employee mentality versus the employer mentality, that makes a big difference, whether it's whatever gender that that pops up in. So how so as a senior leadership team member, from a management perspective, if you saw these things, these biases popping up in the team across the board, what sort of approach do you think you would have? Or, what do you think would be the most efficient and kindest and more inclusive approaches to dealing with that?
Usually in management, we look at things in a very objective manner. We use KPI, we use, number one, of course, what Alison meant was probably accountability and responsibility to your job. So it applies to both genders, or any genders, or even any layer of management team too. So it applies to everybody. So as long as you stick to what are the facts, what are the KPI, what are the job standards, so no matter what we are talking about, we all follow the same thing. So that's how we are being fair.
So it holds everybody accountable.
Yes.
Yeah. This has been, I think, one of the greatest conversations, of the year. It's this particular subject. I think it's super important, but it does tie into so many other things. It's not just the bias at work. It's a bias at home. Sorry, my dog is free, just walking around my house. Sorry about that. Hopefully he's not doing anything random. I forgot my point now, not the dog.
Actually,
connected to other things. So, it's because it starts to erode any confidence. There's, imposter syndrome that, people can suffer from. The very first FB Live that I did was with a lady that's been specialising in coaching for ladies in leadership. And she was talking about imposter syndrome and some other very interesting perspectives. So, what do you think about that? So when somebody comes into a leadership role, being a lady, and has kind of fought up through the ranks. So what was your first job, for example? What's your story? How did you get up to being in the senior leadership team?
Oh, okay. When I came out to work, that was after my high school. So I had to work because I have to support my sisters who were like 10 to 12 years younger than me.
Right.
And I had only one objective, is to climb the corporate ladder. So I get promoted very fast. Yeah, every year I get promoted. And yeah, I think it's
That's
been
amazing.
easy for me because of the management. They believe in what I do. Yeah, so I basically just do my work efficiently.